The Gunbai, one of the most iconic and also overpowered weapons in the entire Naruto series. Let's talk about everything we know of this weapon in this video and why it may have been too broken for the Naruto universe. Like, subscribe, don't forget to do those cool things. Let's get going. Let's begin with the thematics behind the Gunbai, because yeah, it's a fan. When I was a kid, I thought it was a guitar. It's kind of a silly thought, because it kind of looks like one, but obviously it isn't. But a fan as a weapon seems a little counterintuitive. Yes, anime is known for having very strange things used as weapons, but Naruto's not really one of those anime that does these wacky things for weapons like Hunter x Hunter, for example. No, Naruto usually has weapons that are weapons. The Gunbai is probably one of the only exceptions, alongside, I guess, the Sage of Six Paths tools that Ginkaku and Kinkaku use. Ugh. But unlike those stupid tools, the Gunbai is extremely cool looking and thematically sound. Because if you didn't know this, Uchiha actually means fan in Japanese. So for the most legendary member of the Uchiha clan to use a fan in battle simply makes complete sense. When we first got introduced to Madara's character design, when he's not in the form of a statue in the Valley of the End, we see the Gunbai, and that's one of the most iconic things about him from the get-go. It's a very different looking tool that we've never seen anybody else using, so it feels special, and it also looks great. Let's be real here, Madara by himself looks cool. There's no way around it, but when he has the Gunbai, especially when he attaches the Gunbai on his back, he just looks phenomenal. The Gunbai has this very strange shape for a weapon that makes it really interesting to look at. It has tomoes drawn in it, symbolizing the Uchiha Clan Sharingan, I would assume. And unfortunately, we don't know much about its creation. Who could have created this thing? I mean, the Sage of Six Paths would make some sense, but they make a big deal out of the tools that the Sage of Six Paths actually made, so I don't think it was the Sage. It was probably more like somebody that founded the Uchiha Clan. Not so much Indra, because he didn't technically found the Uchiha Clan. The Uchiha Clan were the descendants of Indra. It probably happened several generations after Indra died, but he would certainly have to be extremely powerful and competent and intelligent to create such a powerful tool. And a tool I would imagine remained in the Uchiha Clan itself for a long time. Alternatively, Madara himself could be the one to create the Gunbai, because in the Uchiha Senju clan flashback, when we get to see Madara's dad, Madara was just a kid, and Madara's dad was the leader of the Uchiha clan, he did not use the Gunbai. Remember the scene when Tajima Uchiha, Madara's dad, as well as Botsuma Senju, Hashirama's dad, came to the battlefield to try and kill the other kid, alongside Izuna and Tobirama respectively. Tajima was the leader of the Uchiha clan, and he did not have the Gunbai. Now, maybe you could say some other Uchiha member was using the Gunbai, but I would assume such a powerful tool and such a unique tool would be used by the leader of the clan, and that's exactly what happens when Madara becomes a leader. So maybe Madara actually created the fan, which honestly makes a lot of sense, because Madara is extremely intelligent, powerful, and capable. And there's an interesting thing that happens in Madara's life during the Warring States period, which is that he fights against Hashirama many times. And we all know how freaking powerful Hashirama was. And the thing is, we know Madara awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan and everything, and he would use the Mangekyo against Hashirama, obviously. But he only goes blind pretty late in his life. And actually, he doesn't even completely loses his light by what we see in the flashback between Madara and Hashirama there, when Hashirama is telling the story to Sasuke. When Tobirama mortally wounds Izuna, meaning that that's about the time when Izuna is going to give his Mangekyo to Madara and Madara is going to awaken his EMS, Madara was actually in the battlefield alongside Izuna, and he was still seeing. He wasn't blind or anything, so strangely enough, Madara did not lose his light completely with his regular Mangekyo Sharingan, which means that he didn't spam his Mangekyo Sharingan abilities that much. Sasuke, after one day spamming his Mangekyo Sharingan, lost a lot of his eyesight during the 5 Kage Summit, and contrary to popular belief, no, Sasuke didn't go blind by that point, but he lost a lot of sight. A lot more sight than what it felt like Madara still had access to the day Izuna was mortally wounded, which means that Madara was probably not overusing his Mangekyo Sharingan capabilities against Hashirama Senju, the guy with wood style, the god of shinobi. But how is that possible? Is Madara really going to compete against Hashirama with fire style alone and maybe regular Sharingan genjutsu and his Sharingan prowess without the Mangekyo? I'm not saying Madara wouldn't be extremely powerful with those things, and he would obviously have access to more non-Mangekyo Sharingan jutsus we simply don't know of, but Hashirama is a different beast. He would need his most powerful abilities regularly to survive fights against Hashirama and try to beat him, and yet he doesn't lose his light. So, one interesting theory is that he created the Gunbai to make up for the power difference when he didn't have the Mangekyo Sharingan to face Hashirama. And that would make a lot of sense because the Gunbai, as we're gonna see, is extremely powerful and many different types of ninjutsu, and they could provide Madara a way to match his power against Hashirama even if he's not using his Mangekyo Sharingan regularly against him. So let's talk about the Gunbai's OP capabilities. The Gunbai had two users in the Naruto series, Madara and Obito. Two Uchihas, which makes sense. I mean, I don't know if an Uchiha could use the Gunbai. Maybe you just need to use your chakra and mold it well and know how to handle the weapon in order to use its capabilities, but I like to think that you need an Uchiha chakra signature to make the weapon even work. I don't like to imagine a scenario when Tenten, the weapons master of the Naruto series, is using the Gunbai like she was using the Sage of Six Paths tools because the Gunbai is much cooler, more powerful and everything. So no, that's a cursed image. One thing I will say though that was sort of a missed opportunity with the Gunbai was that Sasuke never got to use it. Like, come on. Sasuke at the end of the Naruto series is literally the last surviving Uchiha and the most powerful Uchiha. We see him becoming an adult and everything, and the Gunbai would look so cool on him. Like, it makes everyone look cool. It makes Madara look cooler. It makes Obito with a white mask going into the war arc look cooler when he has the Gunbai on his back. So one can only imagine how much cooler adult Sasuke would be with a Gunbai. And also, if Kishimoto had kept the spiked hair on the back of his head, I don't know why he straightened Sasuke's hair. That was stupid. But let's take a look at what a Gunbai could do. Starting off with Obito. As Obito inherits the mantle of Madara Uchiha, he also inherits his signature weapon, the Gunbai. And honestly, he doesn't use the Gunbai for most of his life. Even though he had access to it, Obito could have used the Gunbai ever since he was a 14-year-old in Madara's cave. Because as we see Obito leaving to go help Kakashi and Rin from the Mist Village Anbu that supposedly were going after Rin. Oh no! Whoa, Obito, go after them! Trust me, bro, I'm definitely not trying to brainwash you. He actually passes by several weapons that Madara had laid on the cave, and one of those weapons, most importantly, was the Gunbai. Obito chooses to pick up a cape to use in the fights, and he doesn't pick any weapons up. I mean, he wouldn't be able to use the Gunbai without any knowledge at that point. But after that, after Madara trains him in all sorts of things in the cave after Obito comes back from seeing Rin dead and everything, then he could have certainly used the Gunbai, and the Gunbai is a phenomenal weapon. Even though Obito had access to Kamui, which made him pretty much invulnerable to anything, the Gunbai was not useful only for defense, so Obito could actually have been using the weapon for his Akatsuki period as the Orange Masked Man, and I know he wouldn't want to use the weapon when he was portraying himself as the Toby persona. That would give away the fact that he was quote-unquote Madara Uchiha, because he's just flashing the legendary Gunbai, the weapon Madara used to use back in the day that people probably wouldn't know about. But like, he could use it right after he reveals himself to everyone that he is Madara and everything when he enters the summit, for example. I think the Gunbai would actually look cool on Orange Mask Obito. Also, when Obito fought against Minato when he was only 14 years old in his attack of the Leaf Village when he was portraying himself as Madara, and when Minato was like, you did all those sorts of difficult things, infiltrating the village, taking the Nine Tails out of Kushina, controlling the Nine Tails with a Sharingan, are you Madara Uchiha? And Obito was like very quiet, maybe I am. So like, yeah, he made Minato think he was Madara, and if he had the Gunbai on him, not only would that have been interesting for him to use during the fight, but also it would lend credence that he was actually Madara because he's using Madara's legendary weapon. Like, I don't want to say anything, but did you see the spot Minato hit Obito Obito with the Rasengan in the fight against Obito there, right on his back. If he was carrying the Gunbai on his back during that fight, he would have tanked that Rasengan and he could actually probably just deflect the Rasengan back at Minato. It could have been pretty useful for Obito there. He could have actually beaten Minato and taken the Nine Tails when Naruto was born. But no, man, I don't want to bring the Gunbai. I can do everything with Kamui alone. Didn't work so great for him, did it? Now, Obito only starts using the Gunbai in the beginning of the 4th Great Ninja War when he changes outfits into the white mask Obito outfit. And it does make some sense for the Gunbai to be reintroduced at that point of the story because that's when things are going to pick up. Obito is changing his design. He got a Rinnegan. We still think he is Madara. And when he gets the Gunbai, you're like, oh, okay, they're gonna lock in now. Madara Uchiha is gonna go all out because he has his weapon. And that's pretty good. As I said, the Gunbai looks really cool in the white mask Obito, even though I think the Gunbai would pretty much look cool on anyone because it's such a cool weapon. But what can Obito do with it? Well, he kind of uses it a couple times, but it's not nearly as much as Madara did. One interesting thing that Obito does with the Gunbai is that he attaches the end of the Gunbai's handle to this long chain. And so he can use the Gunbai as this flail-like weapon. He can swing the chain, wrap the chain around to make the Gunbai hit the opponent from awkward angles. He does that to Naruto, Kakashi, and Guy. And he can also toss the Gunbai around and bring it back with a chain to protect himself from a long-distance attack, or from somebody that's coming in and Obito doesn't want them to get close. Obito managed to block a KCM1 Naruto Rasengan with a Gunbai as Naruto is attacking the Geromazo with it. The Gunbai manages to absorb the Rasengan, but it doesn't regurgitate it like what Madara does in the future. And Obito also uses the Gunbai in a very sneaky way against Guy when Guy is using his nunchucks. Because Guy is assaulting Obito, right? He's trying everything. And then Obito uses the Gunbai to block the nunchucks, but then he phases the Gunbai to the nunchucks to try and grab them. But when it comes to other jutsus, more specific things that the Gunbai can do, Obito never really did them. The only time he got close to do it was when he blocked the Rasengan Naruto used against the Geromazo, but that's it. When Madara arrives to the battlefield like a Chad opening a crater next to Obito, Obito is quick to realize that he is the beta in the relationship and is like, nah, Madara, I'll give you the Gunbai back, man. It's yours anyway. Then he tosses Madara the Gunbai. And that's when we see what the Gunbai is actually capable of. Because as Obito tosses the Gunbai, detaching it from the chain he had and just giving it to Madara, Naruto uses the Nine Tails' chakra tails to grab these massive rods. They were piercing the 8 tails and tosses them back at Obito and Madara. And Madara activates a very interesting looking jutsu that looks kinda like his Susanoo, but he puts the fan in front of him and creates this shield. And we never see Madara's Susanoo with a shield. We don't know the name of this jutsu in particular, but it feels like it's a combination of the Gunbai with the Susanoo, creating this chakra shield that blocks the massive rods and doesn't let them reach Madara or Obito. And this really shows what Madara is capable of with this thing. He had the Gunbai for a few seconds and he did more than Obito's done with it. Now, back in the day, Madara actually used the Gunbai alongside a scythe. And if you're asking me, that has to be the coolest weapon combination in any manga, period. The Gunbai, which is already extremely cool, with a scythe, which is inherently a cool weapon and makes Madara look like the bringer of death, which is gonna be the case in many situations. He used them connected by a chain, much like the chain Obito used to toss the Gunbai around, and so he would be able to combine attacks with the Gunbai and the scythe together using the chain. We see a few glimpses of that happening in the fight against Hashirama, for example. In that flashback panel we see when Obito is telling Sasuke about the story of Madara and Hashirama, Madara is wielding the Gunbai and the scythe. And in the very first panel of Hashirama's retelling of their battle, we see Madara and Hashirama clashing Gunbai versus massive sword with a full moon backlighting them. So Madara was clearly capable of using the Gunbai in combat as a regular weapon, and also a shield. But we also see a few other extremely powerful capabilities of the Gunbai because, and this is only seen in an OVA, but the fan surprised surprisingly enough, blows wind in an extremely powerful way. And in that OVA, we see Madara literally blowing several enemies away with a Gunbai. And you know what actually synergizes really well with wind? Fire. And Madara so happens to be an extremely powerful fire style user. So imagine how powerful his fire style would become if he empowers that fire style with the fan. I know that's kind of the whole thing, the Uchiha clan, the fan. It's their literal symbol, a fan. But it doesn't stop there, no. The Gunbai has one additional extremely OP, and this is the most OP ability of the weapon. Because up until this point, yeah, the Gunbai is powerful, but it's reasonably powerful. With this final ability, it just makes the Gunbai broken. That is going to be the Uchiha Reflection. Remember when Madara arrived, he got the Gunbai, and then he told Naruto and the others, yeah, the 5 Kage are not doing so hot. Naruto gets absolutely pissed, and he rushes Madara with a mini Bijudama. In KCM2, Madara casually reacts to his speed and puts the Gunbai in front of himself, blocking the mini Bijudama, and then he uses a jutsu called the Uchiha Reflection. His Gunbai absorbs the mini Bijudama and regurgitates the power back at Naruto, destroying that shadow clone. And Madara did so casually. It didn't seem like it took a lot of effort for him to do so. It didn't seem like the Gunbai struggled in any way to completely absorb the mini Bijudama and explode it back at Naruto. And that is certainly the most overpowered capability of the Gunbai, because it can take an attack, nullify its effect, and convert the incoming chakra into wind nature transformation, essentially blowing it back at whoever attacked you. That's exactly what happened to Naruto with the mini Bijudama. And if the Gunbai can do that to a mini Bijudama, sure, it's not a full Bijudama because that would be even bigger than the Gunbai, but I cannot really think about anything more powerful and dense in terms of its chakra potential than a mini Bijudama. The only thing that's going to be more difficult for the Gunbai to absorb and regurgitate is going to be a truth-seeking orb, for example, and that's a completely different tier of power, which probably would break the Gunbai, because if it wouldn't, then the Gunbai is just completely broken. But if it can absorb a mini Bijudama and throw it back in wind style / explosive potential, then it can do it with pretty much any other jutsu you can think of, so long as it's smaller than the Gunbai, I would assume. It could block Amaterasu, for example. Chidori, Rasengan. I mean, Obito literally blocks the Rasengan from Naruto. And if it can block a mini Bijudama in short range, in melee, I would have to assume it could also block things from a long distance. Like if Naruto tossed that mini Bijudama at Madara, he could just simply do the same thing. It's just that Naruto would be pushing against the Gunbai in that situation, which would make it even easier for Madara to absorb. So on top of essentially nullifying any ninjutsu that's thrown against the user, the Gunbai can also enhance your Susanoo by creating that chakra shield. It can be used as a regular shield that Madara does in a few situations. We've seen that OVA when Madara's fighting against Hashirama, that he blocks a few shuriken, those massive shuriken with it. And you can also blow massive gusts of wind with it, which would make taijutsu pretty ineffective if you were to blow somebody away that's trying to punch or kick you. So this is essentially the perfect weapon because it's great for defense and it transforms that defense into offense. And when you are a powerful fire style user like Madara is, you can enhance your fire style with its wind style. So just like its legendary user Madara Uchiha, the Uchiha fan, the Gunbai is built different. It's pretty sad that the Gunbai disappears from the Naruto story without much of an explanation. The last time we see the Gunbai is when Madara is fighting against Hashirama in their Edo Tensei forms, and when we cut back to them again, Madara no longer has the Gunbai. Hashirama pins him down with the deity gates, Naruto and everybody else attacks Madara, and that's when Madara gets revived by Rin Tensei, and then we get shirtless Madara and everything like that. But he no longer picks up the Gunbai, which I would assume he probably would have, especially because he was fighting against all the tail beasts at that point, and he didn't have his eyes to begin with. He gets one Rinnegan in the middle of the fight, so getting the Gunbai to help him out in that situation would be pretty good, right? Like, if the Gunbai can do an absorb exception to a Tail Beast Bomb from Naruto, I guess it could do some good things against the Tail Beast attacks, but Madara doesn't even consider that in his inner monologue. So either he thinks the Gunbai is gonna be worthless, which kinda true if you consider that he's gonna have Limbo, one of the most broken abilities in the verse, but he didn't have that before he got a Rinnegan, or that somehow the Gunbai was destroyed. Now, if the Gunbai was destroyed, I actually wanted to see that happening, and if somebody destroyed it, it would have to be Hashirama. Now, how did he destroy the Gunbai in that particular fight, when Hashirama and Madara fought hundreds of times before, and Madara used the Gunbai in all those times pretty much, and Hashirama never destroyed it? I don't know, maybe he found another way. Then again, I wanted to see that happening if it actually happened, so I just think Madara forgot about the Gunbai or thought it wasn't really useful for him anymore, and just left it there in the middle of the battlefield, which, in that case, it would make complete sense for Sasuke to eventually pick it up and use it as the last remaining Uchiha. But that does not happen, as I said. Very unfortunate. Now watch why Obito's growth and strength makes no sense clicking right here. He grew much more powerful in a single year of his life than any other ninja in the history of the Naruto world. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring notifications because YouTube is not sending all my videos around, so make sure you do those things and help the channel. And thank you so much for watching.